Hi everybody and welcome to one of my regular webinars that I do on a regular basis, bringing in experts, not only people that I know in my network, but people that I've worked with and actually my go-to experts as well. So obviously sharing my experts with people and making sure that they are qualified experts who can deliver some great training for you on these webinars. Now, first of all, before we get started, a bit of housekeeping. Can everyone please put in a yes or a no in the chat box if you can hear me clearly? I'm just testing my microphone here, and if you can hear me clearly, please put a yes in the chat box for me right now. Okay, brilliant. Yes. Brilliant. Anders says yes. Stuart says yes. John says yes. William says yes. Andrea says yes. Hi, Andrea. Cool. Excellent. Paul says yes. Yep. Lou says yes. Okay, cool. So Spyros here. Okay, cool. So we've got a lot of people on the webinar today, which is great. This is a great topic and subject in itself. We're going to be covering basically how to create webinars that sell. Now, as you know, I've been doing webinars for quite a while now, and I've done some very successful webinars. Most of my business is actually based on the back of webinars. Most of my high-ticket programs and my strategy sessions are sold on the back of webinars, and webinars for me have been fantastic. But I haven't not done as many webinars as my expert guest today, Ernie De Los Santos. He has done over 2,200 webinars. And I'm really glad I actually managed to get a hold of him. He's very, very busy. He works in a different industry altogether outside of the internet marketing industry. But what he's done has been very successful, and it's great to have him on today's webinar. So let me just bring on Ernie and introduce Ernie to everyone else. Hi, Ernie.
Hello, Sohail. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thank you very much for having you present on the webinar. And thank you very much for being here. We're going to be covering some really, really great content today on this webinar. And what I'd like to do first of all right now, Ernie, is just basically hand over controls to you, and then get you to start off with your training. So there you go. You should see the controls coming your way.
Yep. Here we go.
And like I say,
see that okay?
Excellent. And like I said, I'll be here if you need me. And also, guys, remember, if you've got any questions for Ernie, please put them in the chat box, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end where where myself and Ernie will get together and we'll answer all your questions. So if you've got any questions about webinars or about Ernie's training or any other elements of Ernie's training, please keep your questions coming, and we'll answer them at the end. All right, Ernie, over to you. Good luck.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much. I want to thank everybody for being on today, and especially thanking Sohail for inviting me to do this. He's actually kind of been talking me into doing this kind of stuff in this space, in this industry, for a while now. I primarily do, as he mentioned, work in a different industry. It's actually in what's called the healthcare compliance industry in the United States. And I use webinars there quite a bit, so that's why I've been able to do more than 2,200 in the last few years. Anyway, for everybody who is on with us today, I want to let you know that you're going to be getting a free bonus at the end. It is a special diagram that I have created that I use to teach my clients in the healthcare space about how they should be structuring their webinars so that they are selling, because most people don't know how to do that. I mean, hardly anybody knows how to do that, is what I found. So this is what the diagram looks like, and you will be getting that after the webinar. We'll be sending that out after the webinar, and you will be able to have it. I, in fact, have this on my wall right above my computer monitor. I look at it every day, because when I'm doing webinars, this is what I want to keep in mind and what I want to keep doing. Now, what you're going to hear today, what you're going to learn is basically 5 keys that you have probably never heard before and that you really need to know to create webinars and say. Why do I say they've never been presented before? Because as far as I know, they've never been presented like this. I've put this all together, combined it. It is information that I have learned over the past 7 years, and most of the good stuff about it, the good stuff that I learned to do, I learned in the past 2 years. You get to take advantage of this now, because after I've done 2,200 webinars, I've made a lot of mistakes. Let's put it this way. I think I've made all the mistakes. And so you're going to get to take advantage of that now, and you can avoid making all of these costly trial and error mistakes. I know that this stuff works. I know that it works in any market, any kind of niche, any industry, any product you want. You can, if you can market it online, that this works. And I know that because, not because I've done so much in so many markets, but because the people I've learned it from have primarily done this kind of work in all kinds of markets, all kinds of industries, and there are people out there making tons of money, even lots more than I've made in this. So I'll have a few short stories to tell you about all that as we go along, okay? But first, I want to tell you a little bit about my story, and I found that it helps for you to hear this because it explains a little bit about how I got to this point and how I'm able to help you reach your own goals now. I've been in marketing for really over 40 years. That started obviously not when things were online, because 40 years ago there wasn't an online. But since when online started, I started doing marketing and trying to figure out how to do marketing with it, with the internet, back as early as in the early 90s. So, but anyway, what happened eventually was I started working for an online firm in 2006. I had been hired to create an online education system for some consultants and to do some marketing for them as well, and all of that led to doing webinars, teleconferences and webinars. We eventually moved to doing just webinars, and we did lots of them. But the problem was the partners split up back in 2010, and suddenly I had no job. I actually was able to continue doing some work with one of them, but the other one left the industry entirely. So I was stuck with no job, no income. What was I going to do? So I wondered, maybe I should try doing internet marketing. And I went out and I basically fell into the same kind of mentality that a lot of people get to when they go look at doing internet marketing. I just started believing everything that some of these people were telling me, that it could happen very easily. I forgot what I knew about business and what I knew about marketing, and it took me a while to figure that out. But eventually I went back and I looked at my talents, my skills, and I took stock of all that, and I decided basically that the best thing I needed to do at that time was to go ahead and get a coach. Why get a coach? Because you need even professional athletes have coaches. World-class athletes have coaches, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit in money. But that is the way that you get going, and you get better, and you can do it a lot faster if you've got a coach than if you're just trying to do it all on your own, because you just can't see what you're doing. The lessons I learned from that were largely the same kind of lessons that a lot of you may have already learned as well. If you've been doing internet marketing for a while, you probably want to set up some kind of a membership site and be able to establish what's called continuity. Continuity, for those of you who don't know what I mean by that, it's being able to get money coming in on a monthly basis from somebody. That's what a magazine subscription is. It's called continuity, that kind of thing. So I actually created a site in my industry because I didn't have the content. I didn't have the expertise to actually go do healthcare compliance, but I knew a lot of people who had that expertise. So I created a way, because I knew how to do the webinars, and I had gone and learned how to do them better and better. I went and I created a site. It's called appealacademy.com. You can go look it up if you want to, but it probably won't mean anything to you unless you're in that industry. And then I added another site onto that called GPS, Coaching for Healthcare Compliance. And so what it was, and this is how Sohail and I got to know each other, is he saw these sites that I created, and he thought, wow, you created a way to do JVs and coaching and fit that all together and doing it all with webinars. So that's how Sohail and I really started talking about doing all this. And now I do coaching of my clients, I basically do JVs with them, and I teach them how to do it, and I also do marketing for some of them. So I am doing all of this coaching now on marketing and webinars, and that's what led to all this. So Hale talked me into this. But let me ask you a question now. You've seen my journey. Now let's talk about your journey, because whatever it is that you're doing now, I don't know what your expertise is. I don't know what kind of business you're in. I don't know what you're selling. But you love what you're doing, right? Either that, or you have something in mind that you want to do that you love doing, whether you're doing it full-time right now or not, and you would like to do that more. Let's say you're doing it already. The question is, are you making enough money doing that right now? If you're on this webinar and you're watching this, the answer is probably no, and quite frankly, neither am I. I'm not making as much as I'd like to make with it, but I keep getting better and better. The question is, what are you doing about not making enough money and doing what it is that you love to do? Maybe you have a full-time job and you want to quit that. So the question is, do you have a coach? Like I said, that's what professional athletes do. That's what Peyton Manning does, Tiger Woods, Roger Federer. Name a professional athlete, they've all got a coach. Why would they're world-class athletes? Why do they need a coach? Because a coach keeps you sharp and focused, and it helps you do your best all the time. It ensures top performance. So that's what you want. That's what you need to have as a coach, and you need to be doing that. And another thing that you need to understand about doing it, so Hale and I were talking about this the other day. Not only do you need to know how and where to focus, but also you need to realize that you are an authority, and you need to present yourself as an authority to people. You are an expert in what this is you love to do, right? You know more about it than most people down the street. So Hale is the JV expert. He talks about doing JVs all the time, everywhere, all over the world. And that's how he got known as the JV expert. Let me ask you another question. Would you like to learn how to do what it is you love to do and be able to make money while you sleep? There's a funny story about that was one of my coaches is a guy named Michael Cage. He knows how to do webinars literally in his sleep. He could do webinars, run circles around anybody I know to do webinars. And he promotes his way of doing things. He's got a picture of him with his cat, but he's asleep in a chair with his cat. And that's what he says, this is what I'm doing when I'm making money. And that's because he knows how to do webinars and automate them, do them live and automated, and do all that, and he makes money while he's asleep. So let me ask you this. What is your plan for how you're going to improve your lot? Because we just talked about where you are, and I want you to think about that. First thing is your results right now. That's how you should be measuring what you're doing, and it's what should drive your plan. Results are the only thing that matters, not your potential. You've got lots of potential. I'm sure you've got potential. I have lots of potential. I've had potential all my life. But you know what? I couldn't support myself or my wife or my family with potential. I had to make money. So what's your strategy for changing your results right now and doing better? Do you even know the difference between a strategy and a tactic? Here's a free lesson that I am throwing in. Just right now I thought of it. What's the difference between a strategy and a tactic? A strategy answers the question, what for? A tactic answers the question, how are you going to do the strategy, okay? And so you need a strategy and some tactics, and all of that means that you are faced with a huge choice right now today. Are you going to keep doing the same thing that you're doing now? Because think of the results, okay? I know all about having bad results by doing the same thing over and over. I did almost 2,000 webinars the same way before I realized that I was in a vicious circle, okay? And maybe you're in that same kind of circle. I was trying to sell all kinds of things, e-books, CDs. I did lots of stuff, but all I was doing was basically buying more products, spending more money doing these webinars, losing more time, which is really the same as spending money. And my wife kept saying to me, where's the income, Ernie? Okay, I couldn't take her on date nights anymore. Even my dog looked at me weird, okay, like, where's my treats, Dad? You used to give me treats. I don't have any treats for you anymore. Einstein said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If you're going to get different results, you're going to have to do something different. The good thing is, starting today, right now, with what I'm going to teach you just on the webinar today, you're going to be able to do something different. So, starting right now, you're going to learn, your potential is going to go way up, okay, because I'm going to teach you some things and a way of thinking that this webinar is going to remove at least one huge problem that you probably suffer from right now and you don't even know it. The number one thing is you probably don't have a system. You need to learn a system for doing webinars if you want to do webinars. They're not just events, okay? You need a system for how you put together and how you do them. You also are going to learn today that you need to be selling on every webinar, not just educating. That is a huge problem, and we're going to talk more about it in a few minutes, okay? Most people don't realize every webinar you do needs to be 2 webinars in one, an education webinar as well as a selling webinar. That is how you're going to learn what serial millionaires do. People like Mike Filsaime, Rich Schefren, Brandon Burchard, Michael Cage, even Sohail Khan, okay, these guys all do things a certain way because they know it works and they sell while they're doing it. You're going to learn what I've learned and what I now use in my business in another industry to improve and grow on a continuing basis, okay? So let me talk about first things is these 8 lessons, 8 things that you need to learn in order to create webinars and sell. Now, we're not going to go in depth in these today. There's just not time. I got 5 things I'm going to talk to you about in a minute. But these are 8 things that you need to write down and you need to think about. Eventually, you've got to add them to your strategy if you want to make money with webinars, okay? First thing is event-based selling works. Event-based meaning it's a webinar. A webinar is an event. People like webinars because they make an appointment for it. They sit down with other people with it. It's kind of a social thing. They also like it because they can take notes about it. They have an expert teaching them about it. It's better than books. It's better than ebooks. I like them better than videos, and you know, we can talk about that later if you want. But event-based webinar works. Event-based selling works. The webinars work. The other thing is that you can do a webinar even if you only have just one big idea. You need some kind of an aha, something that's counterintuitive, something that's not obvious. I don't want to teach you how to do webinars, technically speaking. I want to teach you something that is unusual, and that is what I'm doing here today. Third thing you need to learn, and you need to internalize this. Strategy is your real key to success, not chasing opportunities. So many people fall into the trap. I was in the trap for a while. It took me a coach to tell me, stop doing that. You want to get on email lists and get ideas from people about what's working now, what's not, but don't buy everything that comes out, even if it's only $6 or $7. You need a strategy, not an opportunity. The opportunities are a dime a dozen. You need a strategy. Fourth thing, you need to not only get people to come register on your registration page, you also need to get them to attend your webinar, whether it's live or a recording or an automated webinar. The only way they're going to see anything is if they attend your webinar. The other thing is you have to structure your content on your webinar. That is the key. Content, I say this often, content may be king, but structure is what sells, okay? You've got to have good content, but if you don't structure it to sell, you're not going to make money. Delivery, you need to have a structure that you can do, that you understand, you know why you're doing things, you know everything you're saying, you know why it's there, and you know what it's for, and why it progresses you towards your goal, which is getting somebody to take an action. Not everybody's going to take the action, but a certain percentage are, but only if you ask them, only if you lead them down the path, okay? 7, ongoing contact. You don't want to just have the webinar, even if you do it multiple times and then just stop. You want to have ongoing contact. If you're, if you're a fan of Sohail Khan, you know that that's what he does. I do it, he does it. All these pros do it because they know that's a very important part of making sales. There is ongoing contact. Number 8, automation and speed is what allows you to scale your business. Automation is what allows you to do things more than once. Speed is because you have a system and you're able to produce products faster than you probably ever thought possible. Okay? So now that we've done those things, now don't let those intimidate you. That's 8 things you need to learn, but you don't need to learn all of those to get started. As a matter of fact, I think it's just if you learn one of these other 5 things I'm going to teach you, you can then add these in later. All right, so let's get down to the main things I wanted to tell you about today. 5 keys so that you can begin selling with webinars. First thing is, biggest thing, remember I mentioned, the big problem is that people think that education sells. I can't tell you how many businesses I go to right now. Guys, I talk to the CEOs or the presidents and I say to them, how do you get new clients? They either have no answer for me or they tell me, well, we do educational webinars or seminars or whatever. And I say, really? And show me one of those. And hardly ever do I see them doing anything where they really make money from that. They think that as long as they give out good education, somebody's going to come back to them and buy something. That is a huge fallacy. And if you think that in your head, dig deep. If you think that, you need to get rid of it, okay? I did over I counted them. I did over 1,700 live webinars that way. Only a handful of them really made some money. Now, some of them did. I had 5 webinars that were prepaid webinars that did more than 5 figures in sales on those 5, okay, out of 1,700. 2 of them did over $20,000, but that was only because they were prepaid. Fewer than 20 of those 1,700 did more than $3,000 each, okay? Almost all of my free webinars that I did brought in no revenue. I couldn't point to a single sale I made because of those free webinars. What were the internet marketing guys doing that I didn't know how to do? That was the big question I had when I started trying to learn to do webinars. So I went and studied. I went and paid a lot of money to go study under people like Mike Filsaime. Mike Filsaime has a company. He makes over $20,000 a day doing free webinars. I'm serious. Okay, free webinars that offer a CD for free. Well, he charges a couple bucks for the CD, but he does a free webinar and you get a free CD. But he makes money with that because a certain percentage of people who watch it go buy something, buy the CD. A certain percentage of them go buy a coaching program for him. A certain percentage of those people buy a more expensive coaching program for him. He runs the numbers. It's all automated. Michael Cage, first time he ever did a good webinar that was structured the right way, he made $20,000. He said, he said to Dan Kennedy, I hope you know who Dan Kennedy is. If you don't, you need to go look him up. He said to Dan Kennedy, who was coaching, he said, okay, forget speaking. I'm not going to be on the speaking circuit. I'm going to do webinars. Dan said, hey, if it works, go do it. And that's what he did. Michael Cage now does that full time, coaches people on how to do webinars that sell. I was one of his students. I mentioned Dan Kennedy a minute ago. GKIC is a company that run by Dan Kennedy and a guy named Dave D. They have the highest converting webinar I have ever heard of in the industry. In the last 2 to 3 years that I've been studying this, I've not heard of anybody with a better selling webinar. They have a webinar that is automated. In other words, it is evergreen. It runs on a constant basis. They just drive people, they drive traffic to the web page. It does great education, but at the end of it, it is structured in such a way that they sell 40% of the people who attend that free webinar go on to buy a $300 product from GKIC. 40%. I don't know anybody that gets even close to that. A really good one gets about 20%. But that's the kind of thing that can happen with webinars. When I first did this kind of structure, remember that diagram I showed you at the beginning? When I first started doing a webinar that had that kind of structure, I had immediate results. The first 2 webinars I did like that. I got 10% of the attendees to buy. Remember, I said I'd done hundreds before of free webinars, and I didn't get a single sale. I did these first 2 that were structured right. 10% of the people who attended bought something. Now, that was not a very expensive product, and they were automated webinars, but it was also in a very tough market. Healthcare compliance is a very tough market, just trust me. The point is, every webinar you do needs to be something that sells, not educates. Results are what matters, not exposure. Forget about getting exposure. You can get exposure plenty of ways. You need to get sales, okay? Second key you have got to understand. No one sees your offer if they don't come to your webinar. Who cares if they register and don't attend? It is not optional to have them attend. Yes, you should be concerned about getting people to register for the webinar. Of course, that's the first step. So Hale and I talked about this just the other day. We were saying, you know, he was saying how he knows that with free webinars, and even lately it's gotten worse with free webinars, you can get a lot of people to register, but getting them to come and attend it at the time it's live is another story. You may only get somewhere between 20 to 50% of people to attend. Frankly, if you can get 50%, you're doing really well. I can get 80% to attend a free webinar if I have the time and I start promoting it early enough and start applying some of the keys that I've learned and that I talk about in that structure diagram. There are keys you can do to keep people excited about coming. You want to be in front of them every week or every few days to keep them excited, because after 3 days after they registered, they don't even remember they registered, much less why they were excited about it. So you have to keep talking to them. Content is important. Subject lines in your emails going out to them are critical. You got to get them to open that email. Second thing you got them to get them to do is to read the email, so the headline in the email is going to be important, and then you have to get them to click inside on something that is huge. But none of that matters if you don't get them to attend. I heard Dan Kennedy tell a funny story one time, and I tell the same thing. I've tried this. If you go out and you talk to people who they want to sell you marketing information, they want to do something for you, they want to do a email blast for you, they've got all kinds of what they call new metrics of how many people see it, how many people open it, how many click on this, how many people went on that, how many open the next one, how many people only open the second one. And they got all these metrics they want to give to you, and that's what they want to deliver. Funny thing is, they don't talk about how many sales they're going to get you. Try asking them, you know, you want to give me metrics, but the funny thing is you want me to pay you in dollars. How about if I pay you in new metrics? How about if I pay you in metrics? Would that work for you? The answer you'll get back from them is no, because they want dollars. Well, so do I. So the only thing I care about is whether I can get somebody to come to the webinar and then buy something. Those are the metrics that I care about, okay? Attendance is not optional. Third thing, this is hard to understand sometimes for some people. I was going to make this bullet say, have no Q&A on your calls, but that really isn't true. The idea is not to answer questions. The idea is to answer all the questions that your buyer has before they can even ask the question, hopefully before they even form them in their head. You do not want to have the opinion, although this is what salesmen all over the world are taught. Do your presentation and then wait for the questions, answer all their objections and questions. That is a bad idea. How do I know it's a bad idea? There's a book out there called Spin Selling, very popular, one of the most popular sales books ever written. You can go look it up on Amazon if you don't know it. Spin Selling. They studied, this guy named Neil Rackham studied 35,000 sales calls. And he found out that salesmen cause the objections. You cause the objections by how you do your presentation. What, are you kidding? It's true. What he found out was that of all those 35,000 sales calls, the ones that were for major sales, I'm not talking about a $7 product or even a $50 product. I'm talking about a fairly good bunch of money, at least a few $100s, something that makes somebody think about whether they're going to spend that money or not, okay? In that kind of a sale, the fewer questions that were asked, the higher was the likelihood that somebody closed the sale. The more questions that were asked, the less likely they were to close the sale. Doesn't that fly in your face? Why would it be that way? Well, there's another guy called Eliyahu Goldratt. He came up with this thing called theory of constraints. There's something else you can Google. Just let me give you the short version of it. You never want to do your demonstration too early, because if you do, in the sales call, if you do that demonstration before your client's ready, they're going to have objections and questions that are going to keep them from buying. And the reason for that is because you have not gotten them to agree what the problem really is. They may not agree with you about what the problem really is, and they may not agree with you what the direction of the solution needs to be. So why would they agree with you about what the solution is you're offering? Makes sense, right? It's kind of a little bit more involved in that, but it makes sense at a bottom level. The trick to this is, how are you going to do this on a webinar? What about an automated one? None of it's interactive. How are you going to deal with that? Well, the thing you have to do is you have to answer all those questions ahead of time, think of them before, and build the answers into your webinar. Never wait for them to ask the questions. If they ask a question, you need to write it down, because you either didn't answer it during the webinar, or it's one you didn't think of and you didn't answer in the webinar. So there's that one. How are you going to do that with a webinar? Glad you asked. Here's number 4. You need to learn to focus on this problem that your client has, not just on your solution. Remember what I said just a moment ago about theory of constraints and how that fella came up with? He said the thing you've got to do is to get them to believe that you understand the problem and that you're both on the same page about what their problem really is. Then you get to talk to them about what the direction would be to take in order to solve that problem. Notice I said direction, not what the solution is. If you can get them to agree on what the problem is and agree on what the direction for a solution is, now they're ready to hear what your solution is that solves that problem in the direction that you just started talking about. That's a key thing. There are 5 ways that people resist you when they're thinking about their problem and the direction that they want to go in versus what you're doing. There's actually 5 layers of resistance. You could consider them layers of resistance to change. And actually, Sohail and I had talked about this earlier, because I was actually going to do a whole webinar on just that, those 5 layers of resistance. It's a very interesting thing. The point I want to make, rather than go over that stuff, is what I found out was the whole idea of focusing on the problem and then the direction for the solution explained to me why, in my 40-year career, why so many projects I had been involved in failed, because I didn't know how to do that. It's not that I was a failure. I was a very big success in a couple of things. I actually helped change a couple of industries, made some major changes in the way people did business in those industries. But what I found out was that within the company I was working, because I didn't know how to get people to agree with me what the real problem was we were trying to solve and the direction we needed to take for that solution, they didn't agree with me and they didn't go along. So they didn't get on board with how I wanted to change things in order to solve that problem. And that's the same thing that happens in sales, okay? The same kind of thing happens. And I just don't have time to talk about it too much today, but of course, there's other ways I can talk about it. Oh, and there's one thing that relates to that that I wanted to tell you. I promised when we were talking about doing this webinar. There was something I learned from Hollywood. It's not really a secret, but it's a difficult thing for people to grasp sometimes. It actually comes from something called the hero's journey. You can Google that. You can also Google it as the monomyth, and you'll find out what I'm talking about. There's tons of stuff out there on it. The whole idea is that every Hollywood blockbuster is based upon the hero's journey. If it was a blockbuster and made a lot of money, you can guarantee if you go inside and study the plot and that movie, you will find the hero's journey. It is basically the idea that somebody goes along, solves some problems, has some kind of a mentor, learns to fight it, kill the dragon. They go on, they finally kill the dragon through everything they learned, and then they go back and they start teaching other people how to kill the dragon. They're able to kill the dragon. They go on, and it's a big success, and then they go on to go back to their home village, and they bring gifts back to their home village. That's the whole idea. Google it yourself. It's a fascinating thing. It's what I learned from Hollywood, and it's what I got taught by some coaches about doing webinars and about doing coaching. That is the big key that gets people to connect with you, because you're able to finally explain to them, I'm not just trying to sell you something. I'm telling you how you and I intersect on how you can get what it is that you want from me, because I've been there, I've done it, and now I'm offering that to you. That's the whole thing. And it is the same thing as what I just described. Focus on the problems, not just on the solutions. Most of us are thinking about ourselves and the solutions we're offering, and not the problems that our clients are facing. So if you can get them to agree with you, here's what the problem is, here's the direction you need to go in to solve it. Now you've got a chance to present your solution, and you've got a chance. Okay, number 5. Some of you are going to look at that line that I just put up on the screen, and you're going to go, this guy is nuts. I use one-time offers all the time in internet marketing or in doing any kind of selling. Upselling from somebody who just bought something from you. Well, you've got add-ons, you've got other things. Sometimes you're going to make an offer because you're going to give them a special price today just because they bought, or just because you're running it for a short time. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is only making an offer one time. Think about this. Let's think about sports for a minute. What if you're American, you can think about it this way. What if baseball only gave players one chance at bat? Would that be a very fun game? Would it be very exciting? No. What if American football only let your team get on the field and get the ball for one set of downs? You got 4 chances to make a touchdown. That's it. That's the game. That's all you get. No, not going to work. What if soccer only gave you one chance to set the ball out and go run it down the field and make a kick at goal? Would that be a very fun game? No, totally boring. So why do you do webinars once? Why do you do a webinar only once? Why do you do it only a few times? If you record it, you ought to be repurposing that webinar multiple ways. There are all kinds of ways to repurpose a webinar, and not just making a recording. Geez, you can get it, you can turn it into an ebook, you can turn it into a series of ebooks, you can turn it into a novel. That's maybe a stretch, but I know people who have done it. You can turn it into a series of recordings that you can sell. You can put it on Amazon. You can put it on Warrior. You can do all kinds of things with it. Don't just do a webinar and sit there and expect, oh, well, that's all I made out of it was what the people did. I can tell you right now, Sohail and I aren't going to sit here and just do this webinar one time. We're going to do something else with the recording. Oh, I know. There are other considerations. What about urgency? Those of you who've studied, doing marketing or doing online marketing in particular, what about doing urgency, getting somebody to take action now? How are you going to do that if they can take action anytime, or they can go watch the webinar any other time? How are you going to do scarcity? How are you going to make it appear that, oh, this is only going to happen, this week or right now, or only time right now when you're watching on it? Well, there's lots of ways to do urgency and scarcity. It doesn't mean doing something only one time. You want to learn about things like that, I have a book to recommend to you. It's written by a guy named Joseph Sugarman. And the title of the book is Triggers, T-R-I-G-G-E-R-S, Triggers. 30 triggers he analyzes in there that are useful for sales. Urgency and scarcity are some of them, and they are very good things to learn, but it doesn't mean you do things only one time, okay? So that's the big deal. Now, those 5 things that I just told you about and just taught you, what are you going to do with them? There's the big question, okay? If I had only one thing out of those 5 things that I just gave you, the one thing I'd say that you need to do to get started, okay? And this is sort of a bonus lesson onto those 5. Here's number 6. Focus, focus, focus. Real estate salesmen say that the 3 most important things in real estate is what? Location, 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 right? Well, I'm telling you right now that if you're using webinars to market, or for that matter, if you're doing anything to market online, the biggest 3 most important things are for you to focus, focus, and focus. And what I say you should be focused on is you should be focused not on your own business. You should be focused on your audience's problem or problems, okay? Now, I've seen this recently. I just went to a webinar about how to create Kindle ebooks the other day. They were teaching me about how to make Kindle ebooks that would be bestsellers right away. There's a gal out there doing it, and she's able to make, she's got 30 or 40 Kindle ebooks that are doing real well. They're not bestsellers, but they didn't need to be. They don't have to be bestsellers to make money at them. But what she did was by looking at what other people were already buying, because that told her what kind of problems people were looking at and how they interpreted those problems in book titles. And so she focused on that. She went and looked for an audience. She looked for the problems they were focused on and what they were buying, and she then went and created a solution for that. Quit thinking that your solution is the end-all to everything. It may be worthless. I can't tell you how many solutions and ideas I've had across 40 years. I can't tell you how many of them turned out to be worthless. Nobody would pay me a dime for them, or they wouldn't pay me much for them. Same idea, okay? Focus on your audience's problems. Now, just that alone, if you get nothing else out of today's webinar, isn't that already a huge change for you, okay? Remember what I said about doing something different so you get different results, right? Remember why you're here today, okay? What are the kind of results that you're getting now? You're probably not getting, all the kind of results that you want. Maybe you're doing like I did. You're having to. I went into debt in order to keep doing, because I kept doing the same thing. I kept borrowing money. That kept raising my expenses. I still wasn't making any money. My spouse kept looking at me saying, my spouse kept looking at me and saying, show me the money, right? My dog was looking at, you don't want that to happen to you. So you want to choose today. You want to make that choice. You want to do something different. You do not want to keep doing the same thing, get those same undesirable results, which are usually either few or not many sales. You want to do something different, get a real chance to get some different results. Now, the next thing I'm going to say is going to surprise you. The next steps after today, after you even decide you're going to do something different, you're going to do some of what I've talked about today, you still haven't arrived. You need to start doing things, doing more of those keys, okay? One key at a time, you are going to add them to your skill set. You want to make sure that you are thinking you want to sell, you don't want to educate. You don't want to just educate. You do have to educate, but you have to sell at the same time. You want to make sure you learn how to nail attendance. Grow that attendance rate versus the registration rate. Get those two numbers to be closer and closer together. The other thing you've got to learn how to do, and that takes time, is to learn how to get into the head of the people listening to your webinars or reading your sales page or anything. That's applicable in anything you're doing, not just webinars. Other thing you've got to do, again, like I said, is focus on their problems, not just your solutions. And then you've got to learn to automate things so that you can do better. And even then, you haven't arrived. You've still got, remember that list of 8 things that I told you about early on? Those are things you need to learn. You need to start learning. Events, and more events. Brendon Burchard once said, I was on a webinar by him one time, and I said, you know, Brendon, I'm doing this kind of stuff, and I'm doing these, you know, I'm doing what you taught me to do. I'm still not making enough sales. He said to me, how many campaigns are you doing? I said, well, I got 3 going right now. He says, you need more. You need to do more and more. More events. Keep doing them. The more you do, that's what you do. Figure out what works, rinse, and repeat. You only need one big idea, but you have to have that one in there in your content. You want to quit chasing shiny objects and opportunities. Make sure that you are sticking to a strategy. Develop your what for, and then get your tactic about how you're going to do that, and stick to it. Stick by it. Don't give up. Remember that only attendees are going to buy, so again, you've got to go out and learn, not just that you want attendees. You've got to learn how are you going to make them stick around? How are you going to make them come to the webinar? How are you going to make them watch that replay? How are you going to make them stick around all the way to the end? The other thing, structure trumps content. Learn that structure. Yes, you have to have good content, but it won't sell for you. Your structure is what will make you sell. You have to practice webinars and deliver it in a set way. Again, structured and practice. You have to go over it. I'm not saying you have to have a script. If you can do a script and you can make it sound like you're not reading a script, then that is a great way. In fact, I think that's the best way. But in fact, you may not be able to sound okay reading from a script. I happen to be pretty good at it because I write like I talk. Now today I'm not really using the script. I'm kind of going part script, part outline, just in case you're wondering. But that's the way I've learned to do things. It's the way I've learned it works best for me. That other thing about you've got to have post-event contacts. You've got to keep going. And then you've got to learn again that automation and speed so that you can make more, do more, and automate everything. The question in your mind right now is probably, Ernie, how fast does this work? Okay, suppose I'm able to put this into effect and use your system. How soon am I going to start making money? Well, I think I've got a better question that you should be asking. When is your next event? When is the webinar that you're going to do next, and how that you are going to structure in the way that I'm talking about today? You don't have to do it all at once. Take one thing and implement that. I guarantee you it's going to be better than the last time you did a webinar. You will do better. And if you keep adding things to it, you will get better and better because you will have improvement over time. It is a process to learn all this stuff and put it into effect. It takes time to put it all into place. It takes time for you to learn to think this way. It takes time for you to learn and put together the webinar. You can't just spit stuff out and expect it to work. You have to structure it, okay? And that will take you some time. It took me 2 years. Well, 2 years to get to the point I'm at now. It took about 9 months to go from the time I started studying it until I got to that first webinar where I got a 10% response rate, where I did it the right way and got a 10. I still did a lot of stuff wrong. Don't get me wrong about that. I was still a learner. I'm still a learner today. I still go back to those same guys for coaching. I watch everything I see from Mike Filsaime, Rich Sheffrin, Brendon Burchard, and Sohail too. Okay, I watch what these guys do because I learn something all the time, and I put it in place. Now, there is a faster way to do this. You can take what I've done today, everything that I've given you today, you can put it into place, and you can spend a good bit of money, and you can spend a lot of time, and you can learn it all by yourself, okay? You can. Just take what I've given you so far. You can do that. And with the diagram you're going to get after the webinar, I honestly believe you can go do it all on your own. But there is a faster way. I'll bet you guessed that we were going to say that too, because you're on a webinar, and if you've been on these kind of webinars, you know that we have a faster way in mind. So let me tell you about that. Creating Webinars That Sell is the name of a coaching course that I can thank Sohail for encouraging me to create this whole system and put it up as a coaching program for just about how to do webinars. I've been doing this kind of thing for my own personal clients in the healthcare space for over a year now, and we've been able to have some great success in showing them. Shoot, most of them, as soon as they got one new client, boy, they were thrilled. Okay, it was worth everything they paid me and more to teach them how to do it. Okay, so I've turned that into 8 weeks of live coaching. Now, let me tell you what you're going to get in those 8 weeks. I designed it to be a follow-on to this particular webinar. Okay, the first week I start talking about why you want to use webinars. Why not video? Why not teleseminars? Well, I explain why. I prefer webinars, and I think they work better. What kind of webinars are there? There are 5 or 6 kinds that I can tell you about. I can tell you the different purpose of each of those. I can explain to you how to do live versus automated. Sometimes you want live, sometimes you want automated, sometimes you even want a hybrid. I explain all that. The next week I start talking about how you get ready for and open a webinar with that structure. Remember the structure from the very beginning, those 9 steps. Okay, well, there's a set of preparatory questions you have to go through, and then there are 8 steps to actually designing the webinar. The next week I talk about how you connect with your clients, and we go over that. Remember I said the hero's journey? Well, it takes quite a while to explain that. So that 1 week, it's all about how you use the hero's journey and make it so that you can connect with your people. And there's some other tricks as well for connecting with your audience. The next thing is you do delivery of your webinar and how you transition to a closing. That is kind of artful. You don't want to just say, okay, here we are, here's what I've got to sell, because a lot of people will click off. So there's an art to that. And then another week of just talking about how you do the closing and how you do what's called layering. You go back over your webinar and make sure you covered everything that you want to cover, and you've answered all those questions that were in the viewer's mind. All the questions about what do you want them to believe, what kind of objections do they have you answered all those objections ahead of time? Have you stuck something in there about that? What about the alternatives that they have for doing something instead of doing what you're offering? The big one is do nothing. Well, you got to answer that. You got to answer all those, and I talk about how to do that. Then we finally get around to talking about how do you produce these webinars, put all that together, what kind of tools are out there. And I'm not talking about free tools. I'm talking about tools that are for somebody who seriously wants a business and you want to do this. You are going to have to spend some money. There are some free tools. I can tell you about that if you want them, and I even use a few of them myself, but I'm not into doing things just with free tools. I just think they're not very professional, a lot of them. So, and you'll come off that way. So you don't want to use just free tools. Then webinar promotion. Doing campaigns. Remember what I mentioned about what Brendan Bouchard told me? Ernie, you got to do more campaigns. You can't just do a few. You have to do ongoing. Remember, this is a business we're talking about. In that final week, we review all of that stuff, and I talk to you about how you can keep going with that and keep getting better and better. Because trust me, you will not arrive. Okay? So that coaching course, the thing about it is I designed it to be the follow-on to today. So what happens is I developed it inside a coaching system that Sohail created called Dojo Learning, and we put it inside that, and we were going to offer it for we're going to offer it for $797 by itself. 8 weeks of coaching plus a few things I'm going to tell you about in a moment. And that is for doing, you get the 8 weeks, but because you're on the webinar today, and Hale talked me into making a special offer for this, and I want to do this, but I want to do it for a small group. So I'm going to make it available for 10, I'm going to open up 10 spots. I want 10 people who I can teach, and I will be very invested in making sure that they can do this and do it soon, and we will make that available to you because you're on the webinar today, and this is the only place that we'll offer this kind of offer through the webinar is for $497. So that's the 8 weeks of coaching. I'm only going to let 10 people in because I want it to be a small group, and I want to make sure that I can help them and make sure that they succeed. So I've got room in there for those 10 spots. Now, $497 a one-time payment, or we can take 3 payments of $197 if you want to spread it out that way. There's also another thing that you get besides that. When we talked about the 8 weeks of coaching, I mean, you are going to, of course, get for free, you're going to get that diagram that we promised at the very beginning. The other thing we're going to do is a bonus for signing up now is you're going to get another course, which was actually a foundation that I originally designed to be sort of homework for this 8 weeks of coaching. So it's actually 3 hours of instruction and articles that I created, and I do have it posted up on Sohail's site in the Dojo Learning, and it is a $197 course. It's featured there, and if you get the this 8-week course, and we will go ahead and enroll you in that $200 course for free. Okay, and this is basically a quick start. It is a way for you to make an even faster start, to start right away, even before the coaching starts. You could use that and just get started. And believe me, there's a lot of great material in there. There's even a lot of great material about that hero's journey, which I really think you ought to go watch. So that's what will be in that. That's over 3 hours of instruction and the articles. And then if you can do this today, okay, for the first 5, as a fast action, the first 5 people who sign up, I'm going to do a personal critique of a webinar outline that you sent me, okay? You design a webinar, your webinar that you want to do for a webinar that sells, and I will get online with you and do a personal critique of it. Now, how long does that take? It takes as long as it takes, okay? I'm not doing this so that I can charge you by the hour. I'm doing this because I want you to be successful. So if it takes us 1 hour, great. If it takes 3 hours, great. If it takes 5 hours, I'll do it because I want you to be successful. Now, that's the kind of service that I do already for my clients in the healthcare client compliance space, and I charge $800 to $1,500 for that, and I get that on a regular basis from my clients, my one-on-one clients, who have hired me to do marketing for them, and I teach them how to do webinars and how to structure them like this so they can sell. And that is a tough market, and we are successful, okay? But I am invested in you succeeding, and that's why I'm doing it. And that's part of why the coaching program is limited to those 10 spots, okay? So there are 10 spots available for $497. So I'm going to give you the link now, and we're going to open this up. Here is the link. You can go there now and sign up at $497. You get the 8 weeks, like I talked about. You get the $197 course that is 3 hours of instruction, 3 more hours of instruction for free on Dojo Learning, plus everything that's in there. And you're then going to, the first 5 who sign up for it, like I said, I will personally work with you to see to it that you have a webinar that sells your first time out. And I'm sure it'll do better the first time out. It'll be up to you as to how soon you want to do it. I encourage you to do something right away, even if you don't have it to be perfect. I didn't have it perfect the first time I went out, so that's that's the way I highly recommend it. And then, of course, like everything that anybody like Sohail or I offer, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. If after 30 days you don't think that you got your money's worth out of this kind of material, look, you keep the material we sent you and taught you, and it's our gift to you, and we will refund the money. So that's what it's working. So Hale, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to it.
Yeah, and guys, I just want to mention, when I do a 6-week online coaching program, I charge $1,000 minimum. So you're getting some amazing value here. And Ernie's a guy that I turn to when I want to critique on my webinars. So I'm literally letting you in on one of my secrets, and getting you guys on board at such a phenomenal price. $497 is literally peanuts for a course where it teaches you how to sell via webinars, especially when you get the opportunity to do your own webinar and actually make money from it. So the investment you make, even if you pay in installments, the investment you make by setting up your own webinar, you'll make that back tenfold very, very easily. So the return on investment is great for a program such as this. So again, if you're really interested in the program, go to that link right now, www.registerforwebinars.com/webinar offer. And like I say, there's only 10 spots Ernie's giving away on that. And for the first 5 people who sign up, they will be getting those bonuses as well. So I'm just going to type the link into the chat box. People are already asking me, can we have that link? So there we are. There's the link for the offer. And guys, if you've got any questions for Ernie about webinars, or even about the program, then please ask away, and we'll be able to see if we can help you. Okay, so Lynn's asked, does the 8-week course cover lead generation? Ernie, does the actual program, does it also cover how to generate leads and where to get the audience from?
I do cover quite a bit of that, because I've used a number of tools that I'm even still learning how to use on both Facebook and LinkedIn, on how you're going to get people to attend from there. There are strategies to that. There's tons of tools out there, of course. There's some that I can tell you about that I recommend to use, and I do cover that in one of those weeks that's about webinar promotion, because of course you have to drive people to that registration page. And of course, if you can't get them to register, you can't get them to attend, and you can't get them to buy. So of course, we're going to cover about doing lead generation. And I do as well talk about how you do work before that. It's very important, and I talk about this especially in that $197, the Quick Start course. I talk a lot in the Quick Start course about what you need to do before you even think about creating your webinar. You've got to go out there and engage with your audience, and I talk about ways to do that, and how and why you should do that. So yes, I do cover that in not only the 8-week course, but also in the one that's on Dojo Learning.
Paul's asked
Good question, by the way.
Yeah, Paul's asked the question: if we created a webinar and you critiqued it, do you also offer a service where you actually present webinars also?
Yes, I do. I have that, and it's something that I normally don't talk much about until that last week or whatever. But I do have a service that I do webinars for people. As a matter of fact, I do that for some organizations, some very large organizations, even a couple. There are 2 publicly held companies I do webinars for, where I create them. They give me the expert. I walk them through what they should be doing. They send me their content. I give them recommendations on how to change it. I structure it. I write the emails. I can do as much of that or as little of that as you like. So yes, I do.
Okay, guys. Any more questions?
I'm taking notes on these questions, because obviously there are things I didn't cover.
yeah. No, that's fine. Any more questions, guys, that you have for Ernie at all about webinars, or even about the coaching program? If you've got any more questions you want to ask about the coaching program, now is a good time to ask those questions. Like I said, we've only got 10 spots, and there's only those bonuses for the first 5, so they will go pretty quickly. So if you've got any more questions about today's training or about Ernie's coaching program, then just fire away. I mean, everyone, it's quite amazing, Ernie, because everyone's still here. Hardly anyone's dropped off. So
Wow.
it's pretty cool. All of you guys who are still here, just let you know, you will receive an email with a link for the webinar, for the webinar checklist bonus that Ernie mentioned earlier. I'll make sure I get those sent out to you guys, because I've got all your names here now in terms of those guys who have stayed. For those of you who just stayed for the bonus, you're welcome to go right now. For those of you who are interested in the coaching program and want to ask any more questions, then you're welcome to stay on. And if you've got any more questions for us, just fire them away. It's funny because I always say to people that, you know, if you obviously heard my webinars, you know, I charge like, you know, I've been paid $30,000 for a day's consulting, so you've got the opportunity to ask me questions for free, and also Ernie as well. Ernie works with a lot of corporations, and it's always good because I try and find people that are you know, quite unique and out there actually doing it and actually making money from it and working with real companies. So it's great to have someone like Ernie on the webinar. Anders has mentioned, what was the webinar you mentioned in the beginning that converted attendance at 40% to buyers? Ernie, do you know which webinar that was?
Oh, that webinar is about, it was a David D. GKIC webinar that was for magnetic marketing, what they call magnetic marketing.
David Kennedy, sorry, Dan Kennedy, yeah, his magnetic marketing. So I'll tell you what, for those of you who are really interested in that, if you sign up to Ernie's program, I'll reach out to Dan myself and see if I can get a copy of that for you. I'm pretty well connected with those guys at the GKIC, so if there's any extra material that I can bring into the program, and you guys want to get access to that, I'll make it happen. So, you know, if any of you guys do sign up to Ernie's program today, reach out to me and I'll see what I can do for you in terms of getting that extra material for you.
Yeah, and that is really good stuff. I know because I have it. I mean, I bought the program, and I've got it sitting on my shelf, and I refer to it. I've even got, there was you know, some of that's on my wall. Again, above my monitor.
So I'll tell you. So I'll tell you what we'll do. For those of you who sign up to Ernie's program, we'll share the framework with you. So if any of you guys sign up to Ernie's program, if you really want to know how that works and how they manage to get 40% attendees convert, we'll share the framework with you, because I think standard conversion right now for websites is about 10%. So 40% is pretty phenomenal. It also depends on what niche you're in as well. You know, if you're in a very specialized niche and you have a product that people need or people want. For example, if you've got something that people rely on and they need to purchase for their certification, for example, or for their job, or for their career, then you'll get a high conversion rate. Something else.
Yeah, and I will go over that, because I have done an analysis of that, and I've even watched David D. do an analysis of his own webinar to explain why they thought it was so high converting. So I'll put that in the coaching program. I'll include that.
I'll also share something with anyone who signs up to Ernie's program. I'm going to throw a bonus out there that I don't normally share, but because Ernie's program he's only got 10 people on there, I'm gonna share with you a recording of one of my students doing a live webinar at one of my JV broker programs. He's one of my students who actually does about $25,000 a week using webinars and LinkedIn.
Wow.
He did it live in the class. We were blown away, because he told us when he signed up to my program, he said, I want to learn how to do more joint ventures and broker JVs. He was already doing JVs, and you know, this guy he claimed he was doing $25,000 a week on webinars. Actually, one webinar a week he was doing, and he was making $25,000 off the back of a webinar. So. And he does.
I want to meet this guy.
And what I'll do, and I'll dig it out for you, Ernie, as well. I'll send you a copy. I'll give everyone in the program for free a copy of a recording that was made in one of my joint venture broker programs in Atlanta, and if I provide that, you'll have to sign something to, which is basically like a disclaimer. You won't be able to share that because those are the recordings that we took in my private program. So only my students who pay $15,000 each get that. So I'll chuck that in as a bonus for those of you guys who sign up to Ernie's program. That's a phenomenal bonus. Yeah, he's also given me a it's like a check, like a check flow list as well in terms of what he does and how he does it. And like I said again, because the group's small for Ernie, I'll share that with any of you guys who sign up to Ernie's program today. Okay.
Wow, that is terrific. That would be great because that's I'd be thrilled to look at that and not only to look at it but also to analyze it and see what it looks like.
Yeah, I'll see where I did that. I mean, I know we recorded it. We actually taped it. I'll see if I've got a copy of it. So even if I haven't got a copy of the recording, I'll get you guys a copy of the actual the actual mechanism behind it and what he does, and I'll have that available to you in a report if I can't get hold of the video for it. But yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. So guys, if you've got any more questions for Ernie at all, please ask us questions about the today's training or about the coaching program. If you want to sign up to the coaching program, please go ahead to that link, register for webinars.com/webinar offer. $497. It's for what he's delivering over 8 weeks. It's peanuts. And $197 if you want to do the 3-pay. Again, that's peanuts as well. But I think the whole point is it's great information, and like all of us, we're always looking for people who can be good success stories for us. And then after that, obviously, we move forward, and you will get access to the program plus the recordings. And Ernie's even throwing in his Quick Start program, which we've got on my learning platform, which is what Ernie mentioned, Dojo Learning, and plus all the other bonuses. I mean, the critique. I mean, where do you get someone who says, "I'll sit with you as long as it takes to actually help you create the best webinar outline," or really tweak your webinar before you actually present? So guys, that's it. If you've got any more questions, please put them in the chat box. Otherwise, we will wrap up today's training. Actually, if you want to put it in the chat box and tell me what you thought of today's webinar, all you guys have come on my past webinars, and tell me, just give me some feedback in the chat box. Tell me what you thought of today's webinar. I mean, did it really help you? Did it clarify a lot of points about webinars? It'd be great just to have some feedback. So if you want to put some something in the chat box, you're welcome to do that.
If you want me to turn my back or leave the room,
no, I'm sure. I mean, I make sure that I get I get good experts onto the webinars for you guys, because it's something that we all want to learn at the end of the day. And there's always no obligation, guys, to purchase any of the offers on the webinars, but take away the training, and as long as you implement it, that's that really works. So
absolutely, and I was very serious about that. What I've given today in this webinar is not much more than I started out knowing when I first started doing using a structure that actually sold something. And as I said, I mean, it wasn't a very expensive product. I think it was only a $47 product when I was first starting out, but I did $47 products, I did $8 products, I did $7 products, I did $1 products. The trick was getting people to buy anything.
Yes. It's interesting, and that's what's great about webinars, guys. If you have a list and you can segment that list, or even if you can take people off Facebook or social media. Social media right now is where I get most of my leads. Most of my leads come in from social media, and it's free. It doesn't cost me anything at all. Obviously, I've built up an authority and credibility in the marketplace and a brand, but you can, webinars are great for testing, because here's the thing: if you do one webinar and no one turns up, so what? At the end of the day, you can still record the webinar and put it out there and sell it as a standalone course or as a standalone training. Plus, what you can do with webinars is you can record webinars and you can put it into a portal. I've got all my webinars that I've done over the last sort of 2-3 years in a portal that I give away for free, and people love it. And that a lot of people find me from that free webinars that I do in this portal, and on the back of it, guess what? People invite me to speak at events where I sell my coaching programs. People, take me out for a day for consulting. People want to do joint ventures and pay me a $25,000 retainer. So, listen, webinars, no matter whether you're using them to sell or whether you're gonna use them to for lead generation, definitely learn how to use them. So so it's pretty good. Anders has just said I'm closing SEO for $2,000 up to $45,000 over the phone so far. I want to use webinars for lead generation. Now, Anders, I do exactly the same thing, right? I close between $25,000 and $40,000 sales on the back of webinars. So I use webinars I use webinars for lead generation. I don't always sell off webinars, and then I do strategy sessions on the back of webinars. So, but there's a certain, Ernie's taking you through a certain flow. You've got to go through a certain mechanism. Number one, to get people onto a webinar. Number two, to keep them on a webinar. And number three, to get them to say, okay, you know what? I'll put my details on that form on your website because I want to, have a further conversation with you. So, guys, listen, $497 is nothing, man. If you guys, if none of you, if you guys aren't signing up to this program, you're crazy, because you'll also not only get access to Ernie, you get access to me on this program as well. So anything that I'm doing in the space, whether it's high ticket or consulting or coaching, I'll definitely chime in. And I'll be on the program as well. So I'll be in there. We've got a forum as well in the portal. We have live chat. A few things. We have features. You can have a live chat with myself or Ernie while you're watching the recordings or on the live program, and the same thing with the forum. You'll get access to both of us. So it's a good investment, considering if you hired both of us, we'd probably be charging you probably $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $100,000, but $497 is cheap. But the thing is, guys, it always leads to something else. So you guys may experience myself or Ernie in terms of how we deliver training, and you might want to take things further with Ernie. For example, you might want him to help you create webinars or even host webinars, and vice versa. So the relationship has to start from somewhere, and that again is up to you guys to take that step. We've done all we can on our side to deliver what I hope is good quality training, and to help you to go out there. And look, guys, go out and even try this stuff. If you're hesitant to sign up to Ernie's program and you think you're not ready, then just go out and try this stuff. Set up a webinar, go through the format, make a couple of sales, and then you guys can always come back. So, but for those of you who've signed up right now to the program, thank you very much for that. And like I say, you're gonna get some mind-blowing stuff over 8 weeks. So, guys, that's it. I think if we've got any more questions. If not, then we will wrap up. Any last words?
Nothing except I was just going to mention, I have been doing webinars for some large clients recently. I've got one that they have 36,000 clients.
Wow.
This client of mine has 36,000 clients that I'm doing webinars for them. We have 1,000 people using their app that get webinars through their mobile app.
Cool.
I've got another client that is doing some webinars coming up in December, and they've already got 7,000 people signed up for their webinars.
Crazy.
It's amazing what you can do with webinars. So those aren't even webinars that are intended to sell; they're intended for lead generation.
Exactly. So see, this is the difference between what Ernie does and what other people in the space do. Ernie is working with clients who actually get hundreds to thousands of people on webinars. So that's something that is definitely worth, listening to, and definitely worth investing in, rather than someone teaching you how to do Facebook ads or PPC clicks or JVs to get people onto a webinar. We're talking more of on a bigger scale here. So guys, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for coming to, these webinars that I host. Ernie, thank you very much for being a great, expert on the webinar, and always a pleasure to talk to you. And guys, guys, please, again, there's the link again below, www.registerforwebinars.com/webinar offer. Sign up. The page is up right now. If the page says sold out when you go to it, I'm very sorry. That means all the spots are taken. However, you're welcome to email me or Facebook me if you guys want to get in, and we'll see what we can do. But If the spaces go, they go. But guys, thank you very much. Hope you guys enjoyed the webinar. Ernie, thank you very much as well.
Yeah.
And guys, take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.